This is the Dirshu Mishnah Berurah Siman Yud Aleph in middle of the Sif Yud Dalid, as we'll be concluding the Siman today. Well, the learning for the rest of this month of Nisan has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf. L'Zecher Nishmas Chayim Mordechai ben Naftali Tzvi, whose Yahrzeit is coming up on Chavzai Nisan. And Mirz Hashem, the learning the Darech Habura, as we learn each day, Nu Halacha Yithal Materi Kenegei Kulam Klashon Halachas B'chol Yom Muftach Loish Hu Ben Olam Haba Chayim Mordechai ben Naftali Tzvi should be oilet to a higher and higher place in Gan Eden Shal Ma'ilo. So we're holding in the middle of a Sif Yudalid, and we're up to the krichos. We're up to the parts that wrap around. And says the Machaber at the end of Sif Yudalid, the first wrapping around is 7 times. Ubashini Teisha, then 9. Ubashlishi Achasesre 11. Ubaravi, and on the fourth one, as we turn over here, continuing the Machaber, is going to be Shleisha 13, Sha'olam Kulam Arba'im, which equals in total 40. What is 40? Kiminyan Hashem Echad, the minion of the Shem Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, plus Echad, which equals 39, Shleishim Shleisha V'Teisha, V'hem Hashem, Heim Arba'im, V'im Hashem, together with Hashem, that's going to be 40. V'nagu Lasais B'Sev Kol Chut Kesher, you should make a little knot at the end so that the strings don't unravel. So now let's go, before even we get to pictures of Mirz Hashem, let's go straight into the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Ayin over here, in which he's going to discuss the number of wrappings that we have. But the one thing that we will show is we have our talis over here. We're discussing these wrappings over here between the knots, the wrappings around, and we will show more as we go along. But first, let's get some text under our belts before we see the pictures together with the talis, the tzitzis. So said the Mishnah Berurah Sifkat and Ayin that we need to have, the first one was 7, the second one was 9. Ubasheni Tisha Bakavanas Kosav, and as we learned, the Kavanas is the Arizal, that the Arizal writes Basheni Shemaine, not 7, 9, but 7, 8. And so too were maskim whom, as Mishnah Berurah continues over here, who ha'achrayim the achrayim. The shiva u'shmayneim shel yud-kei. Why? Because 7 and 8 is 15, which is the beginning of the Shem Hashem, the yud-kei before the vav-kei, which is 15. So again, not 7, 9, but 7, 8. V'achakach, what happens after you're 15? Achasas is 11. Achasas is 11. And when we put together the 15 and 11 is 26, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei the Shem Havaya. And then finally 13. So you have the 26 and the 13, which is Gematria. Echad, Aleph, and Ches is 9, and Dalet is 4, is 13. So the last 13 is the Echad. Then you have the 15 are the first 2, plus the 11 of the third, and we're going straight in order of the Shem Hashem. We have the Havaya, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the 26 and the 13. V'zeu Hashem Echad. He did a little bit differently. He didn't do 7 and then 8 equal 15. The first one, he wanted the Kav, the Yud Hey of the Shem Hashem. So the first one, what did he do? He did 10 wrappings. And then 5, Havaya, like the Shem Havaya. Being a kricha is more about the krichas. B'seif kol chot, you should make a little knot at the end. Reminds us the Mishnah Berurah, that which we learned a few days ago. I am helps if kodin nechaz my kshazapti sham. That what, if everyone remembers, we took our tzitzis at the time and they were fraying and we tied a knot at the end of them. And we commented, here's the one with the knot, we can still see it. And we commented then that the Mishnah Berurah says, but it's better to make it that it's shizur, that the twining is the best, so it doesn't fall out. We commented, but of course, if it is falling out, then you could make the knot at the end. It says Mishnah Berurah Tovlas Achutim Beinanim, there should be medium level thickness, Loy Ovim, Loy Dakim, no fat, not thin, which is a Ider mitzvah. You want it to be beautiful string. So now, before we go into Sif Tes Vav, let's go. Let's show some pictures over here, courtesy of. Oh, excuse me. No, we should have just drawn them. Let's show some pictures over here, courtesy of, this is Pe'er Halach. So over here you see, this is just basically off of yesterday, in which we learned that the knots and the wrappings are Dalin, Gedoylin, and we learned that the distance between each one should be the same. And you see over here very nicely how they show you that the first wrappings is 7, then 8, then you're 11, and you're 13. So as you go down, what's going to happen is it's going to get increasingly tighter because you want the size to be the same. And the easy way to measure this is that if you take your talis, your tzitzis, and you take the first and the fourth, for example, and you put them together, you see that they make them beautifully. They should be the exact same size. And the way to do that is, as you see, these are wound much tighter than these, and that's the way that you're going to ensure that you can have this lichatchila, that they are all the same size. Now you see over here, this is what we're in the middle of discussing, the wrappings. You have the 7, 8, 11, and 13. As we generally go with the Kavanas, the Arizal on this one. Just to point out one detail, Mishmur here doesn't mention, if you count, sometimes you get messed up. Make sure either you count the first half wrapping or not half wrapping, but make sure that you're consistent as you go along. This is that interesting shita of Shlomo Molke, quoted by the Mishnah Berurah, that you don't have 7, 8, rather 10, 5, in order to have the Yud K of the Shem Havayu. And now we continue back to the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Tesvav. Says the Mechaber, Yish Oimim Shesarach Ledaktik, you should be precise. Sheyitzla Tzitzis La'oirech HaTalis, the Tzitzis should be on the length of the talis, and we remind everyone the length is this way, the width is your height. The width is your height, the length is the part that can wrap around your body, which really, we don't see Ber Halachas always together, so we should point for a moment and look at the Ber Halach, which he quotes the Magen Avraham, which we've seen already. What is the width? The width is your top to bottom, and the length is your wingspan. So back into the Mechaber, says the Mechaber, you should be careful that you want the strings to fall on the length, because then it will fall on the corner. And if they're on the width, it's not going to be falling on the corner. Some say that in the corner you shouldn't put anything else there. So before we even see the Mishnah Berurah on this, let's just understand what's going on. Here you see the talis, that you see that the strings should be, this is the way it should be, they should be on the length of the talis, because then it's going to fall on the corner. As you see over here, that is going to be the roichav. If they were not going to be falling, because then they're falling towards the bottom. That is the Mechaber. This is the next Mishnah Berurah. So let's go back for a moment. We're having a bit issues over here. Let's go back for a moment, and let's go into the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Ayin Beis La'oirech HaTalis. Ayin Lo Sif Katan and Beis Mashu Oirech Ayin Ber Halachas. We just saw that the Oirech HaTalis is that which you wrap around you. V'roichav Hainu, and the width is your height. When you hang it, or afterwards, both when you're creating the tzitzis and afterwards, you want it to be hanging on the corner. And let's say it falls down, you should return it. As that says the Mishnah Berurah, and I actually took a little bit of a census this morning by davening. Many talisim are not made, like we mentioned, from the Chazon Ish to make it tighter that they hang on the corner, and therefore says Mishnah Berurah, it is fine. So yeah, it's and here the Mishnah Berurah screams, and as we know, whenever the Mishnah Berurah, getting strong, he's coming to argue on his own. Here he's arguing in that Shulchan Aruch HaRabim, which we quoted 2 days ago, and which said you should have it on the diagonal. Says Mishnah Berurah, you do not want it to fall in the corner. You should always put it back where it's supposed to be hanging. You shouldn't bag it. And on the corner, you don't want to bag it. You want it on the beged itself, not in another garment. Concludes the Mishnah Berurah. Why is it put on the corner just so it does not tear? And therefore, if you can have it of leather. And this picture here is showing you that which we just said. As you see that they're sewing on the corner other materials to machazek, to strengthen the corner, and the Mishnah Berurah just taught us that that is not a problem. Here you see in the picture that this is the way it should hang. It should hang on the corner. And the Mishnah Berurah says, and if it falls down to the bottom, what should you do? You should be yachzering, you should put it back up. And the Mishnah Berurah says, you should not have it on the corner itself. Here you have a picture of your Be'er Halacha that we just quoted, that the oirich is your length. And as you see, you want the tzitzis on your length, which the way to remember it is the side of the tassels. We'll take a moment over here. As we look at this picture, here's the talis. We'll hold it the same way as in the picture. Here is going to be our length. So here is going to be our length. Okay, it's a little bit zoomed in. Apologies. Here is going to be our length. Let's see if we can back up a little bit. Yeah. And on the sides of your tassels, as they put the tassels on the width side, here's the width side. That is where you want your strings to hang. And as you see, when they make it nice and tight on the corner, it makes it so that it hangs on the corner, or more precisely, when you're wearing the talis, which would be this way, it hangs down the corner. And Mishnah Berurah just taught us that if it's going to fly to the bottom, it's okay. Here you see in number 8, you see in which it says that you want it to be on the sides, on the oirech, on the length, which again just means on the sides of the tassel. So anyone who they did not create their talis, for example, tight like this, and therefore the tzitzis sometimes do move, even this one, I could pull it, right? This is what the Mishnah Berurah is referring to. If it does go to the other side, what do you want to do? Is you want to pull it back towards the tassel. The way to remember is you always want it on your tassel side. That is where you want your strings. Of course, this is talis katan, talis gadol. Over here we see a picture of the Be'er Halacha, in which he quotes that the ikr is the bottom one, the top ones, I should say. He quotes a shayla from the achronim, the b'titz aliyonim. They could be on the oirech, then it's not a problem. Okay, again, we're just going to try to go like the Mishnah Berurah quoted over here, and this is the beginning Simin Yud Beis. Let's just go for one moment and see if we could quickly squeeze in any of the Dirshus over here. As you see, number 82, he quotes the Minchas Yitzchak with regard to the Gematria Echad, Hashem Echad, which again means, let's not get confused, Hashem being 5, Hashem being Yud Kei Vav Kei, that the Midas Chasidus, he shalil hafsik b'diver, when you're hanging on the tzitzis, you don't want to talk. Why? Because you want all the krichos to be within the same creation, and therefore you're going to have the 7, the 8, the 11, the 13. You want them all to be in one. Therefore you should not talk. When one makes their own tzitzis, that's what they should do. When you pay someone else, hopefully they do the same things. You want the Ramzes la'achtos Hashem. You want the whole Shem Hashem, the whole 39 plus 1, the whole 40 in one kavana. And the Minchas Yitzchak there adds, there are places that say that if you undo it, very interesting how far it goes, says the Minchas Yitzchak, that they consider the undoing of the krichos, undoing of the rabbis, like the erasing of Hashem's name, Chas v'Shalom, and therefore, why? Because the wrappings is the writing of the Shem Hashem. We see how important these wrappings are, that it literally references the Shem Hashem. And again, we'll just conclude with note number 84 over here, in which he says, as we just quoted, if the tzitzis go to the bottom, put it back to the top. People are probably wondering what happens with Tasa Blum and Asoi. Says the Pri Megadim that it's not a problem, because not a Maisa Gomer, it doesn't remove your tzitzis, and therefore would not be a problem. So again, when you look at your talis, when you look at your tzitzis, talis is obviously a little bit easier to see. Talis is obviously a little bit easier to see that the side of the tassels is the side in which you want it to hang. We'll pick it up from 7 Yud Beis in the next year. Mir Tzashem.